Esqueci de gravar, vou começar a gravar agora, tá?
Okay, so we just started recording.
Ok. Então vamos ler Êxodo, capítulo 2, do 10 ao 12.
Exodus chapter 2, we'll read verses 10, 11, and 12. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water. And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
Ok. Então aqui a gente vê bem claro ser mencionado 3 etapas na vida de Moisés, né? Que são 3 etapas que todo homem de Deus experimenta também na sua vida.
And in this brief passage, we see 3 stages that every man of God goes through. We see it clearly here in the life of Moses.
Ele nasceu, a Bíblia fala que ele cresceu e depois que ele se tornou um homem adulto.
He was born and he grew into an adult man.
Não, são 3. Ele nasceu, cresceu e depois se tornou um homem adulto.
So he was born, he grew up, and became an adult man.
É importante a gente entender que desde o nascimento de Moisés, Deus já tinha um plano para a vida dele de fazê-lo um libertador.
And it's important to realize that from his birth, God already had a plan of making Moses into a libertador, and to prepare Moses to be the one who would set the people free.
Seria legal a gente pegar a palavra libertador, né?
Eu vou procurar aqui.
Tá. Como que eu posso falar que Deus já tinha, desde que ele nasceu, esse plano? Como eu posso afirmar isso?
How can I affirm that God's plan was to make Moses into a liberator?
Porque Deus começa a construir todo um caminho para preparar Moisés para isso.
Because God starts building a path, a way towards turning Moses into the liberator.
Então, de uma maneira incrível, ele sai da sua família no momento onde os primogênitos eram mortos, a sua mãe o coloca num rio. Vocês conhecem a história. De uma forma miraculosa, a filha do faraó o toma para si, e aquele que era um hebreu começa a crescer dentro do palácio do faraó como neto do faraó. Se você parar a pensar, é uma trama muito bem montada por Deus.
You all know the story. Pharaoh sends word that all firstborns should be killed. And the family devises this situation to spare Moses' life. He ends up in the hands of the daughter of Pharaoh. He grows up inside the Pharaoh's home in the palace. He's presented to Pharaoh. He grows up as a member of the family, as a grandchild of sorts of Pharaoh. This is a drama that unfolds before our eyes that is nothing short of supernatural and miraculous.
Ele foi treinado para a guerra, ele foi treinado para a batalha, ele foi preparado dentro do próprio palácio, ao ponto que chegou num momento, quando ele se torna um homem adulto, ele fala: eu estou apto a libertar meu povo. E ele mata no braço um egípcio quando vê esse egípcio atacando um hebreu.
So Moses is prepared, educated, trained inside of Pharaoh's palace. He was prepared to become a military man, an official, a leader. All this preparation is put into his life, to the point that he arrives to a moment in his life where he sees injustice, and he steps up to exercise the role of a liberator.
Ele se sentiu preparado para aquele momento.
He felt as if he was prepared for that moment.
Então, o fato dele ter sido treinado, o fato dele ter se tornado um homem adulto, fez com que ele se sentisse preparado para cumprir aquilo que era um chamado genuíno de Deus na vida dele, para ser um libertador.
All this preparation led him to believe that he was ready to fulfill this calling in his life, which was to become the liberator.
Esse chamado não foi colocado no coração dele, essa sede por libertar o seu povo, não foi colocado, foi o próprio Deus que plantou essa semente no coração de Moisés.
This call to become a liberator wasn't something that he created himself for his life. It was God himself who prepared and called him to be a liberator.
O que eu quero que a gente preste atenção aqui é o seguinte: ele tinha uma motivação correta, ele tinha um chamado de Deus, mas todos os cenários naturais que faziam com que ele se sentisse preparado não apontavam o tempo correto de Deus para aquela atitude.
It is important that we understand that preparation, the circumstances and preparation and the call, everything coming together, didn't mean that Moses should have acted the way he did at that time, in that moment in his life.
E nós precisamos estar atentos, porque muitas vezes nós, como homens, chegamos a um estágio da nossa vida adulta, às vezes nos preparamos profissionalmente e achamos que entendemos alguma coisa, mas se tornar um homem adulto não é sinônimo de se tornar um homem maduro.
It is important that we consider Moses' life in light of our own lives. To become an adult man doesn't necessarily mean that, with all the professional preparation we may have, to believe that we have arrived at the place of maturity that has been designed for us.
Nenhuma das etapas que ele havia cumprido naturalmente o habilitavam para ser um libertador.
None of the steps that he had already completed in his life up to that time enabled him to be the liberator at that time.
Deus precisava preparar em Moisés algo que nenhum treinamento humano era suficiente para produzir.
God still needed to take Moses through a stage of preparation that no human situation or circumstances could provide him.
que era maturidade espiritual,
which was taking him to a place of spiritual maturity.
Então Moisés foge daquela situação, vai morar no deserto, começa a pastorear ovelhas, e depois de 40 anos, vocês conseguem imaginar 40 anos, esse homem cheio de força, de vigor, preparado, capacitado, se torna um senhor, já sem o vigor da juventude, humilhado ao longo dos anos pelos processos que passou, de alguém que era uma posição de prestígio e se transforma num simples camponês. Foi tratado na sua paciência, né? Porque alguém que vivia num mundo dinâmico, de repente tem que ficar num lugar tão passivo, cuidando de ovelhas. Então ele foi tratado na espera, na paciência e na humilhação por 40 anos.
Now, let's consider this process. An adult man with all the preparation and life and education he had, as a consequence of that choice, has to flee to the desert. And life circumstances present themselves to him where he is now a pastor and he's working on the field. What a downfall from where he found himself just a short while ago, from the courtyard of the palace to the fields of the desert of Sinai. What a treatment that the Lord puts him through, teaching him patience, humility, paciencia, humildade, and waiting. God puts him through a process where he has to wait while building patience and treating with him humility.
Eu acredito que nesse momento, 40 anos depois, Moisés já não tinha mais aquele ímpeto de libertador.
I believe that at that point, Moses no longer had the impetus of a liberator.
Ele já não tinha mais no seu coração a esperança, porque ele não se sentia mais preparado para aquilo.
All that hope was lost because he didn't feel prepared for that. He was now a shepherd. That was no preparation for someone to become a liberator.
E nesse momento, nesse contexto da vida, Deus se encontra com ele.
And it is in this context of this life that God comes to meet with him.
E vamos ler então agora a conversa de Deus com Moisés nesse momento da vida. Êxodo 3, do 9 a 11.
So let's go and see what the conversation between God and Moses looks like in this context in his life. We're going to read Exodus chapter 3. Quais os versículos aqui?
Do 9 a 11. Êxodo 3, do 9 a 11.
Exodus 3, 9, 10, and 11. And now, behold, the cry of the people of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppresses them. Come, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?
Interessante, né? Quando Moisés mata o egípcio, ele se sente preparado, se sente apto, se sente capaz, mas ele estava agindo completamente fora da vontade de Deus. Quando passam-se os anos, ele se sente despreparado, se sente velho, fala: Meu, quem sou eu? Deus fala: Agora você está pronto para ir cumprir o que eu, desde o teu nascimento, te preparei.
So, what a contrast here. When we think of Moses in his prime age, feeling like he is the liberator and acting as a liberator in his own strength, but out of time. And now God comes to him and calls him out to be the liberator he was meant to be from birth. And at a much older age, a man with a lot more experience in life, he feels that he's not prepared, that he's not capable, that he's no longer the man to be the liberator of the people of Israel.
O início da sua vida dele, ele tinha vocação e tinha justiça própria. No final da vida dele, a vocação continuava, mas ele já não tinha mais a justiça própria. Ele tinha que se mover na justiça de Deus, que muitas vezes anula e humilha a nossa capacidade.
During this whole time, Moses,
Quando ele inicia, vamos lá, vou repetir, quando ele inicia tendo uma vocação, né, e justiça própria, porque ele ia na força do braço.
when he starts, he has the call, the vocation to be a liberator, but he also had self-righteousness.
Quando ele se encontra com Deus, ele já achava que não tinha mais aquela vocação, mas ele tinha. Só que agora era baseado na justiça de Deus. E a justiça de Deus, ela destrói o nosso senso de capacidade ou de justiça própria.
But now when he encounters God many years later, he doesn't believe that he has the vocation and the call to do it. But God is still, but he's still part of this God's plan with this vocation and call. But what he lacks is the self-righteousness that he had at a younger age that led him to act out of time. Now God calls him to be the liberator, but based on God's own sense of justice, not Moses' self-righteousness.
Então nós vemos um Deus que ele não se surpreende com a capacidade do homem, mas ele se surpreende ou ele encontra em nós alguém apto a colaborar com a tua obra quando nós nos rendemos à sua vontade. Não tem a ver com a nossa capacidade, mas com rendição.
So we see God, our God, who is not impressed with our abilities and skills and our capabilities. What God is looking for is a surrendered man. It is through a surrendered man that God can execute the plans that he has for us.
Eu posso trazer aqui o exemplo de Salomão e Davi, né? Dois reis de Israel, cada um com uma característica, né? Salomão, um homem cheio de sabedoria, e Davi, um homem que era puro coração. Qual você acha que impressionava mais a Deus? A sabedoria de Salomão ou o coração de Davi?
Let's think about two different examples here. Let's think about David and Solomon, both kings of Israel. One, a man of pure passion. The other, a man of incredible wisdom. Which one of the two impressed God the most?
Todos nós sabemos que o que Deus mais se admirava era do coração de Davi.
We all know that God was very much attracted to the heart of David.
Porque Deus não se impressiona com algo que ele mesmo nos deu. A sabedoria de Salomão Foi o próprio Deus que deu a ele. Como que Deus vai se impressionar? Uau, como você é sábio, mas a sua sabedoria fui eu que te dei.
Because God is not impressed with the skills and gifts that he gives, that he himself gives man. The wisdom of Solomon was a request that he made. It was a gift that God bestowed upon him. It did
Mas o,
not
cora...
impress God, all the wisdom that he possessed.
Mas o coração de Davi foi algo que ele rendeu ao Senhor. Ele entregou completamente a sua vontade diante do Senhor. Então, a rendição do coração impacta mais do que as nossas habilidades de fazer algo.
But David surrendered his heart to the Lord. David was a man who, in his own initiative and decision, he submitted his heart to the Lord. He was a surrendered man, and that's what the Lord is looking for.
Tudo isso é só para contextualizar uma realidade nas nossas vidas.
This is just to bring context to a reality of our lives.
Não meça a sua vida pelos problemas que você eventualmente está vivendo hoje, porque quando você se sente mais desabilitado, mais reprovado, pode ser o momento onde Deus mais encontra graça para poder cumprir um propósito em sua vida.
We should not measure our lives during the times of trials and tribulations, because when you feel the least capable is when the Lord is able to come into the scene of death and bring life and bring solution and birth in you those gifts that he's created you with from the very beginning.
As experiências mais profundas de um homem com Deus acontecem quando acabam as nossas forças, quando a gente já não vê mais saída.
The deepest experiences with the Lord, they happen when we are at our lowest, when we don't see a way out, when the circumstances appear to be so overwhelming that there's nothing else we can do.
E eu queria falar algo para cada um de vocês aqui, que nós já temos caminhado juntos há mais de um ano, né? E eu creio que Deus tem acrescentado em vocês nesse período maturidade.
And I wanna tell you that after this time we've been together over a year, sharing together, it's visible the maturity that God is developing in you.
E nós precisamos entender que quando Deus está nos acrescentando maturidade, nós precisamos ter paciência conosco mesmo e com o próprio Senhor, para respeitar esses processos.
It is important that when God is adding maturity into our lives, we need to still be patient during this process. We need to be patient with ourselves and allow God the time to bring us along the way.
Você veja que Moisés era um cara que, quando começou a sua jornada, ele era impetuoso, acredito que até agressivo, porque confiava na sua força. E o mesmo homem que matou aquele egípcio de uma forma tão cruel, ao ponto de enterrá-lo na areia, foi o mesmo homem que, quando Deus falou assim, eu vou acabar com esse povo, ele falou, não, tira a minha vida, mas preserva o povo. Deus transforma Moisés através dos processos de um homem impetuoso e agressivo, a Bíblia fala, no homem mais manso que havia sobre a face da terra.
Moses goes from that reactionary man, an emotional man who decides in a moment to take matters into his own hands and kill the Egyptian. And not only that, he hid the body and everything, a pure emotional reaction. He goes from this impetuous man to what the Bible calls one of the meekest men who ever lived. How can a man go from one extreme to the other? That was because of the process that the Lord led him to. The man who took matters into his own hands and killed the Egyptian is the same man who now stands before the Lord and says, "No, Lord, don't destroy your people. Do not destroy your people. Take my own life, but preserve your people because of your own name."
A maturidade produz mansidão.
Maturity brings meekness.
Maturidade produz compaixão.
Maturity brings compassion.
Maturidade traz paciência.
Maturity brings patience.
E Deus precisa nessa geração de homens maduros, não de homens adultos.
And God needs mature men in this generation, not just adult men.
Pode ser que muitos de nós aqui já nos sintamos adultos, preparados, mas isso não é o mesmo que ser maduro espiritualmente.
It's possible that some of us here feel adult in a position where we can do the things that an adult man can do, but that doesn't mean that we have reached the level of maturity that the Lord has for us.
Eu queria agora trazer isso, a experiência desse meu amigo que faleceu na segunda-feira, e com isso eu fecho aqui e abro espaço para a gente trocar uma ideia.
I would like to bring into this context the experience that I lived this week with the passing of this friend, of this dear friend. And with that, I will conclude, and I'm going to open for a conversation.
A gente precisa entender que maturidade é algo que você aprende, e você conviver com pessoas maduras, ao invés de conviver com pessoas imaturas, é fundamental para que você possa aprender de Deus e crescer nesse processo.
It is very important that we live in communion with mature people, so that we can be led through this process, along this process that the Lord has for us.
Se você caminha só com pessoas que são superficiais, você se tornará uma pessoa superficial.
If you spend your time with superficial individuals, superficial people, shallow people, you consequently act, behave, and live the same way.
Como eu falei para vocês, esse meu amigo, ele já caminha comigo há 10 anos.
This friend has walked with me for 10 years.
E um excelente tecladista, mas acima de tudo um homem com um coração incrível diante de Deus.
A musician, a keyboard player, and a man with a tremendous heart to the Lord, surrender to the Lord.
E ele chegou, quando ele chegou na igreja, ele passava por uma dificuldade muito grande no seu casamento.
And when he came to our church, he was going through a very difficult moment in his marriage.
E naquele momento, ele preservou toda a integridade, a retidão que ele tinha diante do Senhor. E eu me lembro numa conversa muito dura que eu tive com ele, eu falei para ele: você tem duas opções. Ou você perdoa tua esposa pelas atitudes, pelas situações que estavam acontecendo, ou você tem, diante de Deus, condições de tomar um rumo na tua vida. Agora, você tem que entender as consequências disso sobre a vida do seu filho. Eu nem terminei de falar, ele falou: não tem escolha, eu escolho perdoar.
He was the situation he was going through um,
quando ele chegou na igreja.
when he arrived to the church was very difficult, but he chose to act with integrity. I had a very difficult conversation with him. I said, listen, you are in a position where you only have two choices. You can walk away from this situation, walk away from this marriage, your wife, your son, because of the circumstances he was going through. There was a place biblically where he could have chosen that path, but he decided. But before I even finish giving him his second option, he spoke up and he said, I choose to forgive.
E minha esposa acompanhou a esposa dele, a gente acompanhou eles de perto. Algumas viagens que eu fiz, eu tive em Los Angeles ministrando numa conferência, ele foi comigo. Eu fui para Venezuela, ele foi comigo. Eu trouxe ele para perto. E o casamento dele foi completamente restaurado.
My wife and I invested in their marriage. My wife spent time with his wife, and I spent time with him. I was at speaking at a conference in LA, and I brought him along. One of the times when I was in Venezuela, I brought him with me to that conference as well. We spent time together, we walked together.
E eu vi esse homem crescer e se tornar um homem maduro espiritualmente.
And what I saw was this man becoming a mature man.
E tendo que lidar com coisas como as que eu lidava, com um filho com seus 14, 15 anos, não estava muito firme na igreja, e ele me perguntava como fazer, e eu falava, e ele sempre muito obediente em tudo.
And a man who went through the situations that some of us have gone through or may go through eventually, with a teenage boy in his 14, 15, who was not interested in walking with the Lord. And this man persevered in love. He sought out wisdom. He was listening. He had an obedient heart.
Por que eu estou falando tudo isso? Porque a maturidade se aprende. O filho dele, com 17 anos, está respondendo a essa tragédia de uma forma que está me surpreendendo.
And the reason I tell you this is it's because this maturity, there's an impartation of this maturity. It's contagious. I see his son dealing with the death of his father in a very mature way.
O velório do seu pai teve muita adoração. E quem ficou o tempo inteiro com o instrumento ministrando do lado do caixão foi ele, foi o menino de 17 anos.
And during the ceremony of celebration of life, there was an intense time of worship. And the one who stood by the coffin with his father's body laying there was this young man leading worship, playing along during this time of celebration.
Eu tenho conversado com ele todos os dias, porque eu sei que ele está numa fase de tomada de decisão, escolha de faculdade, e eu estou impressionado. Parece que eu estou falando com um homem de 40 anos, com a maturidade com que ele tem ouvido, se colocado diante de Deus no meio de tanta dor.
And I've been speaking to him daily. He is in a time in his life where he has many decisions to be made. He's considering his next step in education with the university, and the maturity that I see in this young man, the 17-year-old young man, is a level of maturity that resembles a 40-year-old man.
E ele tem escrito alguns textos nas redes sociais dele, Mas eu queria, só para finalizar, ler o primeiro texto que ele escreveu após o enterro do pai dele.
And he's been expressing himself through words, he's been writing what is in his heart. And I would like to finalize by reading to you the first posting that he put in social media regarding the situation he's going through.
Eu imagino se o pai dele tivesse vivo lendo isso, cara. Que impactante.
I can only imagine how the impact of his father reading these words that his son wrote about him and the situation at this time.
Então ele está escrevendo para o pai, né? Ele fala assim: o senhor era meu melhor amigo.
He is writing to his father, and he writes like this: "You were my best friend,
Minha referência em tudo.
my reference in everything."
Como muitos dizem para seus pais que o senhor é meu herói, e sim, essa frase é verdade para mim. O senhor foi o meu herói.
Many will say to his father, "You were my hero," but I can say truly, you were my hero.
Sou muito grato a Deus pela vida que o senhor teve.
I am very thankful to God for the life that you lived.
Um excelente pai, um excelente marido e um sacerdote.
You were an excellent father, an excellent husband, and a priest.
Nesse processo que estamos passando, o Senhor já finalizou o teu e nós seguimos aprendendo a depender de Deus.
In this process that we are all going through, yours has ended, but we are here continuing to learn to depend on the Lord.
Eu posso dizer que não tenho nenhuma fatura aberta com meu pai. Nunca briguei, discuti ou fiquei com raiva.
I can say that I don't have any pendencies with my father. There were no fights, no arguments, or anything that was left unresolved.
Os seus conselhos eu vou levar para toda a minha vida.
Your counsel I will carry with me to the end of my life.
E tinha algo que o Senhor sempre dizia: Deus nunca perde o controle.
And there was one thing that you always taught us, that God never loses control.
E eu posso completar que sim, Deus nunca perde o controle e ele sempre tem razão.
And today I can say with certainty that God never loses control. And Deus nunca perde controle
E sempre tem razão.
and God is always right.
A vontade dele é boa, perfeita e agradável.
His will is good, his will is perfect, his will is pleasant.
Eu peço a Deus que ele me capacite para que meus filhos possam ter um pai como o Senhor foi para mim.
I pray that the Lord will enable me to be a father to my children like you were to me.
Vamos seguir firme nessa vida, mesmo sabendo que vai ser muito difícil sem ter o Senhor aqui.
We will walk through this life fundamented in everything that the Lord is taught us through you, even though you are no longer with us.
Mas agradeço a Deus pelo pai que ele me deu.
But I do thank the Lord for the father he gave me.
O seu exemplo me formou e me forjou da melhor maneira possível.
Your example formed me and forged me in the best way possible.
E eu continuarei o legado que o Senhor me deixou.
And I will continue the legacy that you left for me.
Que o Senhor nos dê força.
May the Lord give us strength.
É uma dor inexplicável,
The pain is inexplicable,
mas eu sei que sairei dessa situação maior e mais forte.
but I know that I will grow out of this difficult time stronger.
Obrigado por tudo, meu Pai, te amarei para sempre.
Thank you, my Father. I will love you forever.
Eu não sei se vocês podem perceber a maturidade que esse menino com 17 anos tem num momento tão difícil de conseguir ser grato a Deus e entender que Deus continua no controle.
I don't know if you can sense the maturity that this young man is facing this difficult situation and difficult time. Being able to give thanks to the Lord right in the midst of an extremely painful time.
Essa maturidade não é por acaso. Ele viu o exemplo do seu pai, ele aprendeu. O Roberto, o pai dele sempre, essa frase era um marco dele, ele sempre, em todas as situações difíceis que ele passava, ele falava assim, Deus está no controle.
This maturity is not accidental. This is the consequence of a life that left this example. It's a legacy. This phrase that he mentioned was frequently heard in our midst. Robert, this man, frequently said, God is in control.
E o que eu queria passar para vocês hoje é isso, né? Que a importância de nós avançarmos nesse processo de amadurecimento.
And what I wanted to leave you with today is this: the importance that we advance to this level of maturity.
Porque isso vai impactar a realidade das pessoas que estão à nossa volta.
Because this will impact the lives of those around us.
Essa maturidade prepara as pessoas às nossas voltas para também enfrentarem dias difíceis.
This maturity also prepared those around us to stand in the day of trouble.
Homens maduros vão formar famílias maduras.
Mature men produce mature families.
E famílias maduras produzem uma sociedade madura.
And mature families will produce a mature society.
Então, nós hoje precisamos ter essa compreensão que não basta ser homem, não basta ser adulto, precisamos ser maduros no espírito.
We need to have this understanding that it's not just enough to be adult men, that we need to be mature spiritually.
Amém.
Amen.
Isso é o que eu tinha para hoje.
That's what I wanted to share with you today. You know, as I'm translating here, I'm thinking that this really doesn't happen naturally or without intentionality from us. We need to be intentional. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that it happens is surrender. There is no other way.
Yeah.
Tem que ser intencional.
There is no other way to that you can make something. Surrender is the I believe that's the only way.
And it is choice.
And trusting, surrender and trusting God. Trusting this phrase that God is in the control. That this is true, but you need to learn this through the process, you know.
And it's choices. It's choices. When we talk about surrender, we're talking about choices. Yeah. It's every decision at every moment. Every decision, every moment.
I was encouraged by that. But you know, with Moses, it seems to me like it was kind of a product of his despair and being broken and sort of running away. And then he came to a place where, so the encouraging part about that to me is that God is good, and he reaches in and invests, and it has to be supernatural, right, to make that transition, to really do that, and it's God that's doing it. So it's an interesting mix between those, right? Because Moses didn't, am I wrong? Moses didn't really, he was more running away, more, yes?
Então, a situação do Moisés é interessante porque foi fruto da desesperação dele. Escolhas erradas colocaram ele numa situação de desespero e Deus o alcança de uma maneira sobrenatural no meio daquela desesperação, no meio de escolhas erradas, e coloca ele nesse processo.
E isso que o Mitch falou, é mais fácil Deus encontrar pessoas no meio desses caos e falar assim, agora tá bom, é útil para mim, do que quando a gente acha que tá tudo perfeito na nossa vida.
See, Mitch, when it's sometimes that availability of heart can only be found in the midst of chaos.
Yeah.
Because outside of chaos, you feel powerful and self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Not allowing God the place to do the process. And that's what I'm saying. We don't want to wait until we are in chaos. And the way is by the choices we make. You don't need to wait until something is wrong in your life for the process to start. Make the right choices today. I think of the king, I think it's Isaiah that says when the king died, he saw the Lord. Eu creio que foi Isaías que quando o rei morreu, ele disse que
Senhor.
It just came to my mind that in the midst of grief, he's makes himself available.
Eu escrevi isso naquele livro, O Poder da Ressurreição. Tem um capítulo que eu falo sobre autoconhecimento. E eu falo que a gente só consegue se enxergar depois de um encontro com Deus, genuíno, né, de uma mudança na natureza.
I wrote it in my book that a chapter about self-knowledge, in that we are only able to truly understand who we are when we have an encounter with God.
Isaías, ele disse exatamente isso. Ele falou assim, ai de mim que sou um homem impuro e habito no meio de um povo de impuros lábios, e os meus olhos viram o rei. Foi o fato dele ter visto o Senhor que fez com que ele percebesse a impureza das palavras dele e do povo, que ele era algo que era comum para ele no dia a dia, as pessoas que ele conversava, mas quando ele vê o Senhor, ele percebe a sua impureza, né?
Isaiah writes that about himself as a man of impure lips amongst an impure people. But that only happened when he sees the Lord. Having that revelation open his heart to the state of everything around him. First, his own heart, but also the society around him. The contrast after seeing the Lord.
Aqui é até interessante um parênteses aqui, né? A primeira coisa que ele percebe é a maneira que ele fala. Ele fala que ele era um homem de lábios impuros. Se tem algo que a maturidade com Deus transforma, é a nossa maneira de falar.
And just a detail here is the first thing he mentions is that he's a man of impure lips. And it's interesting to notice that spiritual maturity transforms the way a man speaks.
Esses dias, eu não sei porquê, eu acho que a gente estava vendo vídeos antigos de ministrações, até minhas aqui na igreja de 2011, e eu percebi como Deus transformou até o jeito de eu me expressar. Porque Deus, quando ele vai te amadurecendo, ele vai transformando você uma pessoa mais mansa, com mais compaixão, com mais compreensão da dor do próximo.
We were looking at old messages back 2011, and I could see the change in the way that I communicate, with a lot more kindness, and it just changes that show the process that the Lord has led me through in the way that I communicate. Keith, you open your mic there. Do you want to say something?
No, I didn't mean to turn on my mic quite this yet, but I guess I will. And I put it in the chat there, but all of these words are very timely for me today as I got to deal with my oldest boy. And, you know, the challenge of him to continue to surrender his life to God, for me to deal with this in a mature way, and also for him to deal with this in a mature way, and also to challenge him for his meekness, you know, strength under control. That's how I've always understood meekness, is for him as he's growing up to use his strength in a well-controlled way, and to use his energies and his abilities in a well-controlled way that obviously is serving God. And so, yeah, I'm applying a lot of what I hear from Cristiano into, you know, the next steps that my interaction with my son. I mean, you know, I can't come across in a way of arrogance or anything like that, because I'm, you know, essentially no better, right? So, you know, I got to go into this with a place of humility, and at the same time, you know, we both need to surrender ourselves to what Christ calls us to. So
Você viu a
this
situação
is really timely.
que ele viu o filho dele, ele percebeu que o filho dele tem olhado em pornografia. Essa que é a situação, e ele vai estar lidando com isso hoje.
Let me.
Sobre a pornografia, eu acredito que uma conversa madura, eu lembro uma vez que eu sentei com meu filho e expliquei as consequências disso. Ele nunca mais teve problema. Eu expliquei o que tem por trás disso. Falei assim, cada mulher que se prostitui, ela está sendo usada por um espírito maligno, e você está absorvendo isso para dentro da sua vida. Isso vai interferir no teu casamento, isso vai interferir na vida dos teus filhos. Quando ele começou a ouvir tudo isso, ele nunca mais tem nem interesse. Então, às vezes é preciso uma conversa de um pai maduro, falando com maturidade para o filho, não é dando bronca, não é xingando, mas é explicando as consequências, né? E com certeza o Senhor vai trabalhar nisso.
Hey Keith, it's important at this time to have that mature conversation. When we went through this, I sat down with my son, and I told him what is behind that. I said, listen, here is a young woman who's under the influence of an evil spirit. And I open up to him everything that is behind that simple scene that he's watching there. It's not just that, there's so much more. And I gave him information of how that affects man, how that will affect him and his wife, how that is going to affect his family, how that is going to affect his children and the children of his children. And after I opened his eyes to the reality of pornography, he never again have had issues with that. He made the decision that all that I presented to him, there was not to have a place in his life.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And I'll try to, go into that same level of depth and, what's the driver behind, the whole industry and what people are like and the hearts of the people and how it impacts him, how it impacts family, how it impacts his future wife, and all of that. Because, yeah, that's a part that probably wouldn't, I might not have ever thought of going into so much detail, but that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you. Yep.
Silas.
Yeah, no,
Sorry, can I just encourage Keith? I'm not sure if you kind of get a sense of maybe part of the conversation you're going to have with your son, but just to add on to that, you could share with him just the fact that you have brothers, people that you know, that you spent time with, who could and probably have shared the pain and the poison that's been in their lives. So you can pass that on, the fact that men who have gone down and who have dealt with those and the pain that's caused and the loss and the poison that would be. You could relate that and share that as proof for him to just recognize that maybe he could learn without maybe he could learn from hearing that anecdotally from other people, and he could say, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do those things and learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, no, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, that's good.
Sorry, Silas.
Choices, choices, and choices.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we're seeing here is experience and wisdom in this. Like Moses had to walk the walk to experience that, to know that anything that he could do was not enough. And it sucks that it takes that time, that experience to do. And it's tough. It's like Mitch was saying, it's excruciating to go through it. And we have now experienced that ourselves, in some of us, or have had friends or close family that have experienced it and experienced the pain and anguish against that. So bringing those to the younger generation, which is also part of wisdom, is going to benefit them like it didn't for us. And I think that, again, plays into the whole conversation that we've had this morning, that Christian, that you bring up, that is maturity, knowing wrong from right and giving that to the younger generation to invest that information into our children, whether it's our children or in other groups. Like, that's why we're here, for that community, to learn from each other also, and also to build each other up. So Keith, I don't expect it to be an easy conversation, but knowing you and knowing your heart, and also what you've invested in this group, that you will ask God for that wisdom, and your son will benefit from it. Just knowing that you've put in the work, you've put in that investment in the relationship with God. I think most of us here are fathers that we don't look forward to these conversations at all, because one, we have experienced it ourselves and it's difficult for ourselves. So knowing what to say is difficult, but with prayer and support, I think it's an amazing thing to invest in. So praying for that, my friend.
Thank you. That's good. Appreciate it.
Josh.
Yeah. I'll just, Keith, if you're okay with it, I'll speak to your situation just a little bit. I've struggled with that my whole life, right? Without really good wisdom or insight. And as I get older, my sister came out as gay a couple years ago. And this is very, very similar along that same line. Society starts drawing lines and telling us what is normal. And so this is a drug, right? It's a drug. No, it releases endorphins, it releases serotonin, and then it gives us unrealistic expectations of how a relationship will be with our wives later on. And that's not how it's meant to be, right? It's meant to be personal, right? It doesn't have to follow a specific format. So society sets these formats like it's supposed to look like this, feel like this, act like this. Even you see it in love stories, movies, whatever. But I get off on a tangent. Like the reason I said my sister is gay, she went down to San Francisco for the Pride Parade. And I said, how many of those people were making fun of Jesus? Right? Blatantly making fun of Jesus. And if there's an industry that's making fun of Jesus, they're in direct contradiction. So that same industry that we're talking about makes fun of Jesus all the time. And if Jesus wasn't real, why are they not making fun of Muhammad? Why are they not making fun of Buddha? Is because it is in direct opposition to God, right? It's a spiritual battle.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is a spiritual battle, and to bring all these things to the forefront. And I think we'll have an ongoing conversation, because there's so much to this that it's something that we'll have to bring up all these points that you guys have made, and so the wisdom to know which ones and all that. I've really got to seek God before I say a whole lot on this. But I appreciate that. Thank you.
Kip, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I wanted to pray for Cristiano, his grieving with a loss of his family and or his friend. And that's, yeah.
Chris, o Kip quer orar por você nesse momento. Kip, go ahead. If you break it, I will translate in between just to make sure that he gets everything that you are praying for him.
Okay, we'll do. Support. So, God, I thank you for the support that you've given Chris to serve through his brokenness, to serve others, to serve the broken, while he himself is.
Eu agradeço pelo apoio que o Senhor tem dado ao Cristiano, sustentando para que ele possa sustentar a outros, apoiar a outros.
The strength to be able to put his own needs aside to serve others. Bless him in that. Bless him with that.
Forças para colocar as suas próprias situações pessoais a lado e poder enfocar na necessidade de outros.
Bring a reciprocity, bring a strength, bring a blessing to him.
Eu continue dando força e retribuindo aquilo que ele tem dado ao outro.
Give him a person, give him a time, give him a setting to be able just to be transparent, to really go through and feel and process.
Dá oportunidade ao Cristiano de poder se abrir com pessoas que ele confia também e tratar do seu próprio coração, da sua própria dor, do seu próprio sentimento de perda nesse momento.
God, I thank you for Cristiano and his passion for you and his passion for his people.
Nós agradecemos pelo compromisso e o amor do Cristiano com, com o povo que o Senhor o deu e com o Senhor também.
Amen.
Thank you, Kip. I appreciate a lot. For me, it was very important in this prayer this morning.
Just a couple of things I wanted to share with you guys before we go. Next week, I'm being kidnapped. Next week is my 50th birthday.
Hey.
Right? So my wife.
Seriously? Hello?
Say it again. What'd you say, Keith?
I said seriously, 50?
50. So my wife has asked me to take 3 days off of work. And she asked me not to look at our calendar so that I don't know what's going on those days. So I'm going to be gone Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Don't know what's going on or where. I'm fine. I love surprises. Unless you make a different arrangement, maybe next week we should take the week off and then meet the following one. Is that okay, Chris?
Okay, no problem.
The other thing is, tonight, if you want to come over to my house, those of you who are around here, we can meet around the fire. If you want to, Kip, if you want to bring your awesome sausages. If you guys just want to come and meet so we can, see each other for a little bit. And then I wanted to kind of circle back to a conversation we had a couple weeks ago about doing a guys retreat. I think we should wait a little bit, maybe towards the fall. That will give us a chance, hopefully, if the situation improves, it gives us an opportunity to maybe get Silas to attend. But also, it puts us, gives more time for preparation, more time for us to be able to schedule something with Chris. And then we can plan. Josh will have to make a trip here. It hopefully gives him time to kind of prepare.
Chris will have to plan to make a trip here.
Yeah, all the logistics involved. Let's see if we can stay close to this area. Maybe it would probably be easier for everybody. So I still want to do that. I think it's important, but I want to kind of do it maybe early fall instead of trying to do it right away. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Anybody before we go?
Thank you, brothers. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
During this time, that was very valuable. But I just gotta say, it was really, really good to be with you guys this morning. Also, really thankful for this group. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd love.
Thank you, guys.
I'd love to pray for Keith real quick. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lord, I lift Keith up to you. He is at a point in his relationship with his son that is coming on to adulthood. He is on the precipice of this point of being a man, and also being that of stature of being above reproach, Lord. So I pray that you would give Keith the words that you would want to give him to press upon his son the importance of this decision that he is going to make in his life that will change the trajectory of his relationship with you, not only you, but also with Keith. that you would be in that relationship, and just give him the words, give him the love and attention for his son. I just pray that in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Love you all.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
See you guys. Thanks, Chris.